Taiwan vowing to counterattack China if Beijing keeps sending forces into its territory. This one day after the island nation fired warning shots at a Chinese drone off its shore for the first time. Joining me now, senior fellow at Gatestone Institute and author of The Great U.S.-China Tech War and the Coming Collapse of China, Gordon Chang. Gordon, great to be with you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. You say Chinese President Xi Jinping is ready for war. President Biden needs to start preparing the American people for the potential of World War III. I mean, that is really a very impactful statement. Tell us more.
Xi Jinping is not only engaged in the largest military buildup since the Second World War, he's also preparing the Chinese civilians for war. And we have seen this in a number of different instances. But let me just tell you a conversation I had last month with a Chinese factory owner who was making consumer items, medical consumer items. He was visited by local Communist Party cadres and was told that he had to change his production lines for items for the military. And he said that he was not the only private factory owner to receive that direct order, and that a number of private factory owners have actually left and abandoned their facilities. The Communist Party is now operating them because those factory owners did not want to stick around for Xi Jinping's war. There are a number of other instances that tell us that Xi Jinping wants to provoke a war. President Biden has an obligation to talk to the American people right now about what is happening.
Let me ask you, Gordon, about the Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo, saying President Biden is still undecided about easing the U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods. He's weighing the possible impact of inflation on American workers. You know, he's put this decision off for months. Some people have said just leave it alone. Some people have said if you take the tariffs off of China, you're catering to them. Your thoughts on Biden's foreign policy specifically? I mean, we know he's been a mess in other areas of the world, but specifically as he's been dealing with China.
Biden has done the minimum necessary and in the face of an obvious threat. And I think one of the most telling things is he's had, 7 conversations now with Xi Jinping while Biden was president. And he's not raised the issue of the origins of COVID-19, which have now killed 1,045,000 Americans. And I think that's an indication that Biden just is shying away from very obvious dangers that now exist. With regard to the tariffs specifically, they're not going to have any effect on inflation because sellers don't drop their prices when their cost of goods go down. They drop their prices when demand goes down. And in any event, the Chinese picked up most of the cost of their tariffs in 2018 when they were first imposed. And the Chinese did that by not only messing with their currency, but also providing subsidies to export-oriented factories. So if Biden were to drop the tariffs, and if it were to have a price effect, which I don't think it would, what he really would be doing is subsidizing the Chinese central government and treasury. That's not something American taxpayers should be doing at this moment.
Right. Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect, the Peterson Institute would disagree with you here. They've run research that says that these tariffs are fueling inflation. They are driving up prices. And Chinese tariffs are being placed on items that are very, very important to a lot of Americans, including myself, sending our kids back to school right now. Higher costs for things like school supplies, shoes, the clothing that we're putting on their kids' backs. Can't we do at least a little bit here to try to drive down those costs by cutting these tariffs back?
Well, what we do by cutting tariffs is telling American factory owners and others that it's okay to keep your factories on Chinese soil. And at a time where we should become self-sufficient, that's a move in the wrong direction. In any event, if the tariffs, even if Peterson were right, which I don't think they are, but even if they were right, look, the main reason for inflation is out of control government spending. When those tariffs were put in place, there was almost no price effect in the United States. So why should there be a price effect now? Peterson will say these things, which are, I think just not grounded in reality at this point.
Gordon, China's Communist Party announcing plans to hold its twice-in-a-decade Congress on October 16th, where Chinese President Xi is expected to take an unprecedented third term. Many say that that's part of why he's flexing his muscles in the way that he has been to show power domestically for his country at home. Your thoughts?
That's a possibility. The problem right now is an internal Chinese one. You have the debt defaults, the plunging property prices, what it appears to be a contracting economy, certainly worsening food shortages, the deteriorating environment, accelerating COVID-19 outbreaks that they can't control, and with their COVID-19 policies, they're paralyzing Chinese society. Xi Jinping is the author of these domestic policies. He obviously does not want to take responsibility for them, but there's no solutions that he has other than lashing out at India, Japan, the Philippines, the United States, Taiwan. So we've got to be extremely concerned that he has incentives to do this, which is not to say that we'll be in war next week, although that's a real possibility. The point is, though, that Xi Jinping has indeed incentives to do that. And all the elements for great power conflict are now in place. And all we really need is one spark.
I think you're right. One spark is all it takes. Gordon Chang, good to see you, sir. We'll keep coming back to you. This is obviously going to be an ongoing conversation.
Thank you, Jackie.